Welcome back, everyone, to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. You guys are in for a treat today. My guest here today, Meagan Chisholm, is a mom of four. I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last year or so, and what she has done throughout her journey being a mom of four, two of which are twins, is quite remarkable. And she really embodies all of the qualities that we just really love here at Support Now. Someone who has turned pain into purpose, someone who's honest and raw about the realities of what it's like to be a medical mom. And on a personal note, I am just so excited to learn more about Meagan, the caregiver, because she wears so many hats for her family and in the community, broadly speaking. So, Meagan, thank you so much for being here. I feel like this is such a long time coming, but I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Jordan, for having me.
Of course. So, Meagan, most of our audience probably is not familiar with your story. Of course, everyone's journey looks a little different, and I'm sure you could talk for hours and hours before you had four children, before you had the twins. But in order to kind of get to the heart of kind of where you are today, to get to that part of your journey, I would love for you to share a little bit more about the experience that really changed you, the experience that changed you specifically with your younger two, Levi and Lainey, and kind of what brought you into this world and kind of which in a way kind of catapulted you to us as well.
Yeah. So it was November of 2020. We were still in the midst of COVID during that time. We had all been going stir crazy, like everyone had been, kind of stuck inside their homes. And we have a family friend that has an indoor pool. And so we asked if we could go to their house just to get out of our house to a safe place where the kids could be free and we could get some energy out and, the kids could swim. And we went and we had a great time and the kids swam and we all got dressed. We were done swimming, closed up, headed in for pizza for dinner. And we were eating pizza and the kids were done and they got back up to play. And another adult was in the family room where they were playing. But twins are mischievous and they're 22 months old. And I remember I was sitting in the dining room saying, hey, I don't hear Levi and Lainey. Where are they? And I knew immediately. And so I ran and I had assumed that door had been locked properly. And I ran out there and I found both Levi and Lainey under the tarp of the pool. So I pulled them out. I started screaming bloody murder. Scott knew immediately, had 911 on the phone before he had even gotten out there. We immediately started CPR.
Yeah.
It was as chaotic of a scene as you could possibly imagine. My other two children were there. Everybody witnessed this event. There were probably 20 different firefighters that showed up, ambulances. I mean, it was about as horrible of a nightmare as you could possibly imagine. And we were thrown into, from a fun evening of let's get out of the house and take a break from COVID to now my life is over. My children both died. It was just as horrible as you can imagine. And we rushed them to the ER, and there's not even a scene in any movie that could accurately describe the chaos of what that night looked like, of having two twins having to be brought back to life at the same time. I mean, they had to call in the adult ER docs. They had to call in people from home. It was awful. And we didn't know what the outcome would be. And what started as a desperate plea that just said, pray for the twins, turned into a 5.5-year journey of me now sharing our story. And I started, so many people prayed for us at that time and really surrounded our family and supported us. And they were looking for a way for updates. And I started the Facebook page, Light for Levi and Lainey, just to be able to provide those updates. I felt like people truly loved and cared about our family, and they truly just wanted to know what was going on and how they could help and what was needed. And so I started sharing our journey. And 5.5 years later, I'm still sharing our journey. So Lainey is a true miracle. She fully recovered and walked out of the hospital, and it
Wow.
was a different story for Levi. And my heart is still shattered and broken, but we made that decision in the hospital to fight for him every single day for the rest of our lives. That's what we've done.
Megan, it's been not quite 6 years, but, you're coming up on 6 years since this all happened.
Mhm.
And, obviously, everyone can hear in your voice how difficult it is to
Mhm.
still relive that
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
I'm curious, how have you dealt and tried to take care of your own mental health
Mhm.
along the way? Because it's very clear that something like this is so
Mhm.
seared into your memory, and as mentioned previously, not only do you have Lainey to take care of,
Mhm.
and Levi, of course, who has
Mhm.
his own challenges, but you also have 2 other children, so how have you managed to push forward while also taking care of you?
I'll be honest, I really haven't. And that really kinda hit me at the end of last year. I had been running so hard for Levi, and I also my 9-year-old daughter, she actually also has medical needs. So, she
Yes.
was born with a genetic syndrome called 22q. She has a G tube, she has airway reconstruction surgery. I mean, she in herself has a list of medical needs, and so we were already medical parents prior to the accident of the twins, which oddly equipped me for that life for Levi. Like, I already knew a G tube. I already knew oxygen. We'd already done all this. And to be thrown into that, you know, was so heartbreaking to have a healthy child then need it. It was different. Charlie was born with special needs, and it was a different journey for us. We didn't grieve the loss of what she once had.
Right.
Everything with Charlie was a win, right? She started as, we don't know if Charlie will make it to XYZ. We don't know if Charlie will eat by mouth. We don't know if Charlie will be able to breathe. We don't know if Charlie will be able to speak. So as she hit those milestones, it was like the greatest day, the greatest win, the greatest celebration. And so everything with Charlie is a win, right? But when you have a perfectly healthy child and all that's ripped away,
Yeah.
it's a grieving process that will never, ever go away. And although we celebrate the wins when we get them, the grief is so strong to have a healthy child that then loses their abilities. So it's a completely different journey for both of them, but we celebrate every win for both children. And I feel like after the accident, we truly just ran from doctor to place, truly searching for a miracle for Levi, really thinking and hoping that, if we went here, if we did this, something was going to help in a big, big way. Everything helped little, but I think
Sure.
my heart was just the desire for, like, a bigger win. So we kept on that journey of going, 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 and last year, we had a big setback, and it threw everything back in our life with Levi, and it really put me into that place of looking at myself again and saying, "Oh my gosh, like, how are we even functioning?" Because truly, my whole life is about my children and about making them happy or making them healthy or bringing them joy. And I do this for 4 kids, 4 completely different kids with 4 completely different needs. So I'm with my oldest trying to get to his football games, basketball games, taking him to concerts, just doing a normal life with a middle schooler. You know, I have Charlie who has her medical needs, but she's thriving, but still managing her doctor's appointments, doing this and making sure she's okay at school and that she has friends and that she's happy and content and healthy and seeing all the right therapists. And then I have Lainey, whose life was thrown upside down and she lost her twin overnight. And like managing her and like being there for her and getting her in activities and showing up at school functions. And then Levi is full-time care, and so it's like as much as you could stretch silly putty, that's me in my life. And so last year, honestly, it was the week leading up to the accident, I completely broke. I shattered everything that I'd been holding, every ounce of me that was just trying to keep it together for everybody else just fell to the ground. And I said, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I can't hide. I'm really good at like, all right, put that problem in the closet, put that problem in the closet, shut the door, shut the door, shut the door. Well, it all came spilling out the week of that leading up to the accident. And luckily I decided like, I need to find a therapist. I need someone that can help me figure this out and help me with strategies of just, my life isn't going to change. I'm now going to forever be a caregiver. I'm forever going to have sadness over what happened. I'm forever going to grieve the life he should have. But I need an expert to help me with coping techniques. And so it's taken a while. I think that's a lesson I've learned. Like, don't just stop at the first therapist that has availability. Really search for one that can understand what you need. And I recently found a therapist who specializes in families who have like medical crises. And so she really understands that life of being a medical mom and a caregiver. And so I've only met with her once, but I think it's going to be great.
Well, that's one more time than you had before. It's one
Uh-huh.
step forward. First of all, I wanna say thank you
Mm-hmm.
for just being honest,
Mm-hmm.
being transparent, because as you described, you have gone through this moments of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and as you mentioned, you've been over functioning for close to 6 years, and when you overfunction, I'm sure it's your body's way, it's your mind's way of escaping kind of that deep emotion inside of you, that
Uh-huh.
sadness, that
Uh-huh.
guilt, that
Uh-huh.
all of those, like, the combinations of emotions that we want to avoid as humans,
Uh-huh.
and the fact that you can come on here and just kind of lay all of that out, like, I just wanna say thank you. I know that's not
Mm-hmm.
easy,
Mm-hmm.
and as I've shared with you before, part of why I love having these conversations is because I think there's so much pressure on moms and medical
Mm-hmm.
moms to have the appearance of having it all together because they have to for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the detriment is to the mom's health, to the mom's mental health.
Yeah.
And Megan, you have a life to live too. Like you have good life ahead of
Mm-hmm.
you.
Uh-huh.
And it's so hard, I'm sure, to see that when you're so busy taking care of your children and everybody else except yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I am so curious. So many people reached out to you. Had tremendous foresight to build this Facebook group, to ask for prayers, to ask for support.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you found actually moves the needle for you? What brings you joy? What brings you those like moments of inspiration? Because it is so deep. It is so challenging for you. And I can see it. I can feel it.
Uh-huh.
But what have you found? Because I think that when these traumatic moments happen in communities, people want to do the thing that's the most impactful. They just have no idea what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share what has been meaningful to you? And of course, maybe what was meaningful in November or December 2020 is very different than what it looks like in February
Mm-hmm.
2026. But I'd love for you to share your perspective.
I think first, it's my core group of friends who rallied around. And I think a lot of times after accidents like this, friends slowly drift because your life really isn't what it used to be. And so if you had a group of friends and you did date nights and, went to concerts together and things like that, and now all of a sudden you have a high medical needs son and you can't leave the house, it's really easy to lose that group. We
Yeah.
were blessed with a group of friends that are still surrounding us, and they know us from, everything in my life is BA before accident or AA after the accident. Everything in my life that is what it is. It was either it happened before the accident or after the accident. And everyone still knows the Megan and Scott from before the accident, and we still like to laugh and have fun and go out and just be normal adults, right? But then there's also the world of like, my life is completely different. And I was really blessed with a community that came in to the new family dynamic and embraced us and loved us too. And so we've been blessed with just a community that's always welcomed us, always accepted whatever the needs looked like, and always just rallied to support whatever we would need in that moment. And yes, like at the time of the accident, people, helped by giving us gift cards to grocery stores and gas, and they knew we were traveling and the monetary support, and we had t-shirts made. And I mean, still people are wearing those shirts. And, I can't tell you just what that did for me to just show me like, keep going, Megan, keep going, Megan, keep going. Like, people love your son just as much as you do. People love your family. People are fighting for you. People are wanting to support you. And we were on vacation last week in St. Pete, Florida, and a lady on the pier walked up to me. I think she said she's from upstate New York or but somewhere in the country, and followed our story for 5 years and prayed for our family for 5 years,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
like, I get
Gosh, you
that
just gave me chills. Wow.
all the time. I get it all the time.
No.
I can be anywhere in the US and somebody will walk up to me because they recognize us and say, "We've been praying for your family." And I can't even tell you what that does for us. I mean, my kids, they don't really understand it, and it honestly happens to us so often, and it doesn't happen to us locally because people just know our family, but it's when we travel, and, the girls are always like, "Why is everyone always praying for us?" I'm like, "Well, mommy shares our story, and prayer's our greatest blessing," and the fact that people didn't forget our story and people still hold space in their hearts to pray for our family, the greatest blessing. I mean, to think about a world of people praying for us gives me strength, to be honest. And so I think that support, it's so many different ways. And that's the other thing I like to say. It's that support can look different based off of what you're able to give, right? It could be and actually, in yesterday, one of the therapies I took Levi to, someone had left $10 just so I could get coffee. So I want to say thank you because I went and got my coffee this morning because she follows Levi's story and wanted me to be able to have something for myself. And so those blessings, they don't go overlooked. It's it's honestly just shows me how incredible of a world we live in, and it's such a beautiful thing that I'm teaching my children.
Yeah.
Like, a lady from New York is praying for us. Like, a person in Sarasota helped connect me to it's just like the connections that have happened. I always call it the Levi effect because Levi's truly a master connector, and there's so many. One day, I'll create the web of what his story has done for the world. It's incredible. I mean,
One of the things that I'm thinking as you're speaking is just how important it is in moments like this to be surrounded by community, to be surrounded by people that love you, both that you know and don't know. And
mhm,
I'm sure it's so easy for you to see how people that don't have community, that don't have these social systems working for them, how easy it is for them to slip into depression, to
mhm,
slip into these kind of silos because it seems like, that I know it's such a not stereotype, but it's such a overplayed phrase, like, it takes a village, and it
mhm,
takes a village not just to get through the day
mhm.
tangibly,
Yeah,
it takes a village to get through all of this spiritually, to to give you the motivation to keep going. I That resonates, so deeply with me because what we hear and say to people all the time is, "You have to let people bless you with your blessings."
mhm,
Because that is what we as humans are designed to do, and without that, we're tribal by nature, and without that, we can't survive.
yeah,
Which honestly leads me to kind of like my next kind of subject or topic here, and something that we've talked about before offline, which is that kind of this like imbalance, right? Where you yourself, you admit and know the importance of community. You know how important it is to receive these gifts, to receive these blessings. And at the very same time, you struggle, and not you specifically, most
Mhm,
people
mhm.
struggle with this idea of asking for help.
Yeah.
And so I'd love for you to just further explain what that tension looks like, where you both know the importance of it and you know you have access to it whenever you want, and how hard it is. Like what actually goes through your mind when you think
Mhm.
about asking for support,
Mhm.
because those two things, again, they're in conflict with each other. They're
I
mutually
know.
it's very interesting, and I think you're kind of perfectly positioned to talk to people about this because
Yeah.
it is so important.
Yeah. I really do struggle with it, to be honest. I think for us, right after the accident, my friend came to me and she said, people want to support your family. People want to, and so they set up, an account where people could donate to. And we were blown away. And the t shirt sales, we were blown away. And, now that, we're 5 years in, it almost seems like, how do you keep asking for or and so it's hard, it's one of those things where I do agree. I do think people want to bless you, and I think that and it's really like an internal struggle because, if somebody says to me, "Hey, we love Levi, we want to buy him a birthday gift." And if I said, he really doesn't need a gift, but you could bless him with whatever you would want to spend on that gift by putting towards his therapy, that's my greatest blessing right now. Like what he needs for his birthday or for Christmas is just the money for those out of pocket therapies that we do. And I don't know, like probably something I need to talk about with my therapist why I struggle with this so much. But
Yeah, that will be session number 2, Megan.
uh, but
What to talk about next week.
yeah, I mean, because I know if somebody said to me, if there's a child I love and of course I want to help them, I wouldn't think twice about it. So I don't know why that's such a, and I think honestly it's because of like work ethic and I've always worked hard my whole life and always had a job and,
Yeah.
I had to stop working after the accident and now I'm looking at what else can I do? Like how can I work and still take care of Levi and still so it's honestly, it's just so many different layers to it. But yes, the greatest blessing you can give a family would still be to support them, even if everything looks from the outside like it's running smoothly, right? Even if you feel like, hey, that family's got it together, just know there's so many unexpected expenses that come their way that yes, could they probably figure it out? Yeah, maybe. And maybe some can't. But if is it a blessing to take that burden off their shoulders? One less thing. The burden on medical parents' shoulders is so much. And let me just tell you, it is not just how am I going to pay for the therapy next week? It is my child on the right medication? Have I set the right appointments? How am I going to get them there? Will we have a nurse today? Will we not? If they call off, how will we make this work? Will nursing even be available in the future? If not, who's going to take care of Levi? I mean, the weight of every day is so heavy. And so truly blessing a family by saying, "Hey, I'll take the burden of I'm going to make sure that next week you don't even have to think twice about that therapy bill or whatever, that harness he needs or I mean that is a way to relieve a burden because it's just there's so many balls in the air at all time that medical parents are juggling and they can't do it all. And so, like, and maybe it's just saying, hey, this week I'm going to send $20 for you guys to order a pizza. And just take that as like, we're just blessing your family. And,
Yeah.
you know, we've been blessed in that way too. We'll be out to dinner and somebody will just pick up our check. And it's like, and we don't know who it is. And it's just like such a blessing of like community and support and like just like letting us just breathe a little bit easier of just like, wow, we're still
Yeah.
loved and our child is still loved and people are still looking out for us.
I mean, Megan, what you're describing is the mental load, right? There's a lot of conversation, I feel like, on the internet today talking about the mental load that moms carry, and medical moms just carry 100 times the load that a
Mhm.
typical mom would handle. I mean, it is
Mhm.
impossible to fully, I think, appreciate all the layers and angles and perspectives of a medical mom because you're not just dealing in the here and now, you're constantly thinking about what does the medium term look like for Levi? What does the future term look like for Levi? and the cost
Uh-huh.
is so significant, and I've seen this over and over again. It does not matter how much money you make.
Mm-mm.
It is expensive.
Mhm.
It is so expensive
Mhm.
to live, in your case, with 2 children with medical complexities that are constantly evolving. And I agree, I think sometimes what happens is we get the perception that because people are out of the hospital, because they're home, because they're traveling, because I see them out at dinner, that, well, they must be on the other side. And I think what's lost is that being on the other side, while it may not be as traumatic in the moment,
Mhm.
it is still very challenging mentally to kind of process, how are we gonna get to the next day, the next week, the next month? And I love the tangible advice you just provided, which is that what medical parents and families often seek is not things,
Mhm.
it's opportunities for their kids to get the most out of life. These intensive therapies you're talking about are so critical to giving them the best life possible, even if that looks really different than an atypical or than a typical child.
Yeah.
And think that, again, these are just things that people that don't experience what you experience, they just don't
Mhm.
know. They don't
Mhm.
realize how much that goes into being able to walk, being able to breathe, being able to eat, being able to swallow. Like these things that we take for granted for you and for your family is so, so precious. So I think that's a really, really impactful way of, again, part of my passion in this is teaching supporters, teaching community how you can show up more meaningfully,
Mhm.
teaching supporters that what appears to be, fine or on the other side is a facade, just like it is for anybody. We all try to put out the best of ourselves, but literally there's always layers and layers of what you don't see and what people
Mhm.
stress out about. So I just think that's such a helpful dialogue to have. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, for our listeners, Megan is on the fence about starting another fundraiser and I think it's just really healthy to say that out loud
Yeah.
because again, it's almost been 6 years and I think it's difficult for families and moms like to say, gosh, do we have to ask for help again?
Mhm.
And as I have heard from others, it's not that you're asking, you're just giving people an opportunity because people know you're trying. It's not like you're saying we're not doing our best. You're doing everything and it's just not enough. And I think that so often what you're describing has more to do with that feeling that you're going to be judged for not being capable
Mhm.
when in fact you're the most capable.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I too even just struggled with what you just said, like, Megan's gonna ask. I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm not, but if you want to bless," like, because I think for me, it's like, if the giver says, "I just wanna give Levi $25 because I just love Levi," that's where I'm like, "Thank you." You know what I mean? Like, but will I come and say, "Would you give us 25?" Like, no. You know what I
It feels
mean?
very different when someone
Y
just proactively does
Yes.
it out of, like, the
Mhm.
instinct and versus saying, "Hey, they need help." I get that, and I think that psychology is super important. I think the positioning of that is super important because one is like, "Oh, this is just like a random act of kindness," versus,
Yes.
"Oh,
Uh-huh.
I'm not able to do this, and therefore I need to go ask others to fill in the gap that I can't fill." And I think that's again, I think it's a super important thing to say. I think it's a
Yeah.
super healthy thing to say,
But I also
and
agree that it's okay to ask, right? This is just me and my therapist need to talk about, but it is okay to ask. Like, and I want parents and families to understand that, like, if you do need that help and say, I really do need to get my child this piece of equipment and we
yeah.
cannot we cannot figure out the means to come by it. It is okay to ask because people do want to bless you, right? And so like it is okay to start those sites and to do a support now and to say, "Hey, look, if you want to bless our family, we are trying to raise for this piece of equipment or a wheelchair accessible van or whatever it might be." And, that's why I love your particular site, Support Now, because people can just scroll and let's say you have $100 and you just wanna bless a family with them, they could just go and search and be like, "You know what? I'm gonna bless Tommy out of Denver, Colorado, because they're really needing to raise money for this, and I can give it to them," right?
The other thing, Megan, I want to highlight here, which, is a good kind of place to begin to wrap up, is that just because you ask for help or receive help doesn't mean that you're not capable of also giving help in your own way, right? I feel like people that are the recipient of such support, the recipient of so many gifts, both monetary and tangible, those are also like it creates this flywheel effect where all you want to do is be able to give back. It's this
Mhm.
like really beautiful circle of if you're willing to accept it, you're also the quickest to give it back because you know how valuable it is.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share a little bit
Yes.
more about what you've built as a result of
Yeah.
all of this that is
Which is
helping and
exactly
blessing so many people.
exactly why we created Like for Levi Foundation, truly, because we were so honestly overwhelmed by the support we received that we were like, we have to find a way to give back. And so we just knew that Levi's story had so many followers that we wanted to create a foundation where we could provide to other families in our same situation. So we created Light for Levi Foundation. Today, we've really started in 2021 with our first event, probably given out so far in grants $252,000. So we give
Wow.
out $3,500 grants to children 21 and under with a brain injury because we just know how expensive it is and how much the therapies and the equipment cost. And so definitely, please, we want you to apply. We give out 2 per month. So it's, our money isn't endless and we wish it was. We have probably over 700 applicants, but hopefully the foundation will just keep going and we'll just keep plugging away and giving out 2 per month. And, it's about $85,000 a year that we're giving out. And that's a true testament to the community that sees, how hard we work towards me, like just loving my own family, being a mom, but then also trying to run a foundation to bless others too.
Yeah. Well, Megan, this conversation I was looking forward to for so many reasons, and it's exceeded my expectations because of your vulnerability, because of all of the layers of kind of that mental load that you shared. I mean,
Mhm.
it is so important to say these things, the quiet part out loud for anyone that might be experiencing something similar to what you've experienced, to anyone who's trying to support someone that's
Mhm.
going through something like this. So I just want to say thank you. And I will tell our listeners I know we will link in the show notes an opportunity to give to Light for Levi. It's a fabulous foundation that's doing such tremendous work, as Megan mentioned. And when Megan, not if, when Megan is
Mhm.
ready, we're also going to be able to link the Support Now registry so you can give back to her family directly and to know that you're helping a extraordinary, ordinary family that's making it work and really shining a light for so many others. So Megan, thank you so much for being here today. I
Yeah.
hope this is the first of many conversations because
Mhm.
I think there's just such value in the lessons that you share. And I am very, very optimistic that
Mhm.
this episode will hit one person that needs to hear it today. So
Okay.
thank you
Well,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you, Jordan.